morning, everybody. So I was rushing a little bit. I told Kenny, don't rush through your meditation. I got to go change. Because I didn't want to drum in this. It's a little hot. I'm already dying. Excited to be back here today. I feel like it's been a minute since I've been up here in front of you guys. 5 weeks, but who's counting? But I'm very excited because we're continuing our sermon series on pre-decide. And so just as a refresher, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes my 1 week can feel like 2 or 3. So it feels like it's been a minute since we've last dove into this. Last week, Harrison talked about trajectories. He had the great visual representation of if you crumple up a piece of paper, depending on how you crumple it, how loose, how tight, maybe you shape it into a paper airplane, how you throw it, overarm, underarm, sidearm, it all changes the trajectory. Our lives are made up more of thousands of little decisions that adjust our trajectory than just one big one. Like, I'm married. I didn't meet my wife and go, let's get married. It was lots of decisions of dating, of getting to know her, of how we interact, lots of little decisions that are made to get to that point. It wasn't just one big jump. So continuing on from that, we're going to talk about the quality of our decisions determine the quality of our life. The quality of your decisions determines the quality of your life. Now, if we're keeping in mind that our life is made up of thousands upon thousands of decisions, hopefully we're a little more careful about the decisions that we make. When our values are clear, our decisions are easier to make. All right, so what we know about ourselves, if we value ourselves correctly, we're probably going to take care of ourselves a little better, which means we're going to make better decisions in life. 1 Corinthians 16:13 says, "Be on your guard, stand firm in faith, and be courageous. Be strong." Matthew 26:41 says, "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." So leading into making better decisions, one of the big things we have to keep in mind is that temptation is real. All right, that's one of the big things that Satan uses against us. And for some of us, it's kind of like, I don't really think of it that way. I don't really think Satan is like directly coming after me. Sorry, but he is. All right, we as Christians know that the end of the story is already set up. But I don't think that Satan's going to be like, you know what? I know how it ends. I'm just going to give up now. No, he wants to take out as many people with him on his way down as he can. So it is important to keep in mind that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And what that means is we as Christians inherently know what is good. Right? We know what is right. We know what is the correct thing to do. But we have issues with our humanly body. We have issues with being a person. Decisions are hard to make in the moment. That's something that Paul really spoke on, right? And he even says later on, right? I know what I ought to do, but I do what I know I should not do. Right? And this is Paul, someone who's pretty well educated and well taught about the Bible, about faith, about spirituality. Even he is like, you guys need to be careful. In 2 Corinthians 2:9-11, he says, I wrote to you so that Satan will not outsmart us, for we are familiar with his evil schemes. And what he's saying here is the same stuff he's been using since back then is the same stuff he's using now, it's just through different means. The same pitfalls we have today are the same pitfalls that people had back then. So one thing to keep in mind is that the devil is coming for you. The second one is that you are not as strong as you think. I hate to say it. I really do. I would love to think that I have a great fortitude. I am very strong-willed. I make great decisions. Not as good as I think. Right? Paul says in 1 Corinthians 10:12, if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you do not fall. Right? Typically, the people who think they are the most prepared and set up are the ones who are going to fall harder than everyone else. You have to find this balance between knowing that it's an issue and something you have to plan for, but not just stressing about it your entire life, that you don't take opportunities, that you don't live your life. And so to help with our decision making, the thousands and thousands of decisions that make up our lives, we want to look at 3 keys to fighting temptation. Or there are 3 major tools. And the first one is move the line. Just move the line. If you can envision with me, I'm going to try to see how well this works. I don't bend very well, so we'll see. Not going too great. Let's just say that this line right here is the division between good and evil. Right over here is good, over there is evil. Sorry, guys that are sitting over there. So we know this side good, this side bad. Stay away from that side, right? Pretty simple. Our spirit knows that, but our flesh, we as humans, like to go, okay, but how close can I get to this line without crossing it? How close can I get without doing bad? Right? I'm leaning over it. I'm technically still on this side, so it's fine. Some of us might even go, I've got a toe in, but the vast majority of me is still over here, so I'm fine, right? I'm okay. I haven't technically crossed the line, just my foot. There's something about us that has an issue, with being smart about this. There's an example we need to use or that we could use is, say, you like to party, right? You're like, I'm going to go out with my friends this weekend. I end up having a couple drinks. A couple drinks turn into a lot of drinks. Then I end up going home with somebody I don't know. Whoops. Right, what was first, I'm kind of at the edge of this line. I'm going out. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe that's not the best decision. You need to move the line. So we'll take the line and we'll add one back here. Now our line that we go off of is way behind this line. So even if we as people say, oh, I'm kind of up here. How far can I get without crossing this? This is still nowhere near that line. We have to pre-decide to make the decisions to set things up in our lives to stop us from getting too close, from playing with the ledge. What's that line movement look like? I'll only have a couple drinks to stop in? No, I'm not going to go out with those people. We talked about habits before. One of the things that is a major help with people who try to stop smoking is when they ask, do you smoke? They don't say no. They go, no, I'm not a smoker. It's that retraining in your brain of, I don't associate with that as my identity. So maybe it's that. Right? Who here is married or has been married? Okay, lots of you. Think way, way back, some of you guys, to when you guys were dating. Right? What did that line look like? Can we hold hands? Can we kiss? Where is that line crossing for us as Christians? It's a slippery slope. Pre-decide to set up lines in your life to stop you from getting to that point. Psalm 16:6 says, the boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. What he's talking about here is that these lines being set up here are not so you'll be dull. Or, oh, Darren doesn't go out. Boo-hoo. What a lame-o. No, I don't have to worry about that. I can live my life without being stressed that I'm going to make some bad mistakes. I can have delight in knowing that I am doing what I should be doing. Number 2. First was move the line. Number 2 is magnify the cost. Something I like doing is when a decision has come up, I like running through all of my options in my head as fast as I can. I'm a very indecisive person on the dumbest things. Right? Like, I go to McHugh's a lot. I used to work there. I know everything in that menu, inside, outside, front, and back, and I'll still pull up to the drive-thru and be like, what do I want? I'm definitely not going to get the same thing I've gotten the past 10 years I've been coming here. Yeah, give me a few minutes. Hold on. Yes, Tiffany, I know that's you. Let me decide. Even with that, I still like to run my options. What does this look like? It sometimes causes some issues with my wife. She'll be like, I can see you're obviously working through something. What's going on? I'm like, this is the situation. She's like, well, have you tried this? I'm like, I already thought about it. Not going to work. Oh, well, how about this? Already thought about it. It's not going to work. Okay, what do you want from me? I'm like, nothing. Just observe that I look disturbed and I'm puzzled. And she's like, all right. But we must magnify the cost. And what I mean by that is we must think, what is the worst case scenario from this? What is the absolute worst thing that can come out of this decision that's being made? Just hone in on that. Because more often than not, that's what happens. Right? When I'm running through that critical thinking, I'm like, okay, this is the worst case scenario, but that's like if 50 other things happen, so I'm probably okay with that. I don't have to plan on that being an issue. When we were talking about temptation, that is the first thing we should think of. That should be what comes to mind. You start off and you go, okay, maybe you have an issue with pornography. Right? First, it's some looking here and there, not that big of a deal. You know, everybody looks. There's not an issue with that. That's that slippery slope we talked about. Then it turns into an addiction. Then it's something you're living your life in shame and fear. You're hiding from people. Right? My worst case scenario is if I have that and I'm hiding it, it comes to light, I lose my wife, I lose my kids, I lose my status in the church. Everything gone. Because it's something I'm like, this might not be that big of a deal. That's the magnified cost. That could be with anything. Gambling. Yeah, I run a few parlays here and there. It's not that big of a deal. Right? Football season's going on. Kickers have been insane this season. Always take the over. One thing turns into the next, and it goes, and next thing you know, all your banks are dry. You're losing the house. You're losing your car. You can't be trusted anymore. Now, does that always happen? No. But the odds of it happening against the odds of it not are not worth the risk. You can plug and play this with any issue or temptation that you have. Another thing about magnifying the cost is stated in Numbers 32:23. It says, your sinning will be against the Lord, and you may be sure that your sin will be found out. That's something that's always stuck with me from whenever I read that, because it's something that's always been true in my life. No matter how good I think I've lied about something or how deep I think I've buried something, it always comes up. Every time. Does not matter. Right? And not only is that a risk of, like the examples I gave, losing house, losing car, losing money, bank accounts, losing family, losing children. That's a massive slap in the face to God too. Every single one of those. One of the biggest things you can magnify the cost is it hurting your relationship with God. The faltering in your faith. That must be kept in mind. So the first is to move the line. The second is to magnify the cost. And the third is to plan your escape. And with that, we're going to take a look at someone who hopefully some of you guys know, and that's Joseph. Joseph was born in a family where he had lots of brothers. He was his dad's favorite. I resonate with that part. His brothers did not like that. His brothers beat him up, threw him in a hole, left him there for a while, and then sold him into slavery. That's not very fun. Nothing about that is good. And in slavery, he starts working for this man named Potter. Potiphar, my bad. And Potiphar's like, you're really good at your job. You're now in charge of my house, my fields, all of the other slaves I have. You're my right-hand man. So he finds favor with this guy he's working for. And in Genesis 39, chapter 6 and 7, it says, Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man. Again, resonate. And Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come sleep with me, she demanded. Hold up. Wait a minute. What's easy here for Joseph is if he was to go, you know what? My life stinks. I'm supposed to be this man of God, and at every turn, something bad happens. But Joseph denies her. Right? Joseph doesn't go, you know what? God has put me in all these horrible situations. I can have one moment of weakness. Doesn't happen. I know some people would look at this and go, God put me in this situation. I'm just going to work where God put me. Maybe I'm supposed to end up with Potiphar's wife. No, that's not how it works. You know the difference from right and wrong. What's important to keep in mind is that we must not use our disappointments to justify our disobedience. Joseph did not use the disappointments in his life and the story of how God had his plan playing out with him justify him being disobedient. Continuing on, it says, time after time again, day after day, she made moves on Joseph. And every single time he said, nope. 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 But Joseph had a plan. In chapter 12, it says that she grabbed him. It says he took off and left his coat behind. I kind of imagine like the old cartoons where like somebody runs really fast and there's just like an imprint of their dust. I guess jacket's still there. That wasn't just fight or flight. Joseph had a plan. He had planned his escape prior, because you can't tell me that day in and day out, again and again and again, that didn't cross his mind of what am I going to do if she attacks me physically? If she brings it to that point, do I have the fortitude to take care of that? What if I don't? What's my plan? What's my next step? Where do I move the line to? What is the max of not okay? Where am I done with being worn down from this? Because something that you have to keep in mind is that just because something wasn't tempting one day doesn't mean it won't be tempting the next. Just because it's something you haven't had an issue with before doesn't mean you won't now. Or even if it's something that you're fighting the temptation for, it gets exhausting. I get tempted all the time to have bad reactions to people. There are some people that just work every nerve I have in my body. Right? And when I get to the limit, the main reaction is to go, you stupid. I hate the way you dress. I don't like your face. Get out of here. It's not good. I don't do that. But that temptation is there of anger building up. And if I do that with somebody at work all day and I'm like, okay, I got out of there, I didn't go off on them, we're good. But I go home and one of the kids is working my nerves and then I do that to them, that's even worse. It is exhausting to fight temptation. So be prepared. Have the steps in place. Have your escape plans ready. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. I don't know about you guys, but there have been a few situations in my life where I've been tempted and I'm like, I don't know that I could have bared that. But then I also think about the mindset I had then, or what was going on, or what was happening. Like, I probably could have done a little better. I definitely have thought back. about escape plans. Right? Where was my out that God provided me here? And there's always been something. There's always been some red flag that I was like, I'll blow right by that, everything will be fine. Or I think I have a good contingency plan for this, I'll be okay. That should have been, I'm just not going to be at that place at that time. There's never once been a temptation that was set up that I could not have avoided in some way. And so the final point I want to make is, why would we resist a temptation in the future if we have the power to eliminate it today? Why would we resist a temptation in the future if we have the power to eliminate it today? So if we have these three things we can do, just plan for the escape, magnify the cost, and move the line. If we can do all of that in our lives now, why would we not? What benefit is it to us to not be prepared? We have to pre-decide these things because I see no benefit to not do that. Everybody close your eyes for just a second. Just a moment. Try to clear out as much as you can to get to nothing. Now, when I say the word temptation, something probably pops into your head. You can open your eyes now. Maybe it's one thing. Maybe it's a whole long list of things. But for me, when somebody says temptation, something pops in my head. That's what you got to work on, whatever that was. Whether you think it's a serious temptation or not, if it's the first things that come to your mind whenever you hear the word, we got to work on it. Now, does this mean that once we're prepared, we'll never be tempted again? No. There are going to be new things coming up in your life that become challenges, become temptations. But it's these skills that we learn now that assist us in the future. Because what I talk about with resisting temptation in the future that we can take care of now, I'm not just talking about the one that popped in our head. I'm talking about all of them. I don't know how many times temptations have shifted in my life, where I had one when I was younger that I don't worry about now, or I have some now that I never thought I would have to worry about. We change. The world changes. One of the main focuses of our lifestyles is how much can you acquire, how much can you get, how much can you self-fulfill. And not a single one of them is not tempting. I don't know anybody who is like, yeah, I have no temptation to earn money at all. I have no temptation to accumulate. I actually plan on being in debt my entire life. It's kind of my goal. Just so money is not an issue for me. I don't know anyone like that. That person does not exist to my knowledge. But it's real. So I want us to take time and think about that this week. As we're going about our days, maybe you spent some time writing a list, right? You had that one big one that popped into your head. But then as you go about your day, you're like, man, I have someone at work just like Darren said he has that I just want to tell them I don't like their face. I don't know. Start making lists, because knowing is half the battle. Knowing that you have an issue with something is extremely important. If there's something that you want to work on right now, you need help with right now and figuring out, talk to someone. I know that there's nothing fun about being like, hey, this has been an issue for me, but let's stop it being an issue. It's more important to us here to be honest and to figure things out so it doesn't keep hurting you, so it doesn't keep affecting your life. I don't care if it's big or small, whatever it is. We want to be praying for you. We want to be doing what we can to assist you, because I can guarantee that there are some things I have knowledge on that I can assist with that Don doesn't, and Don probably has 10 times the amount of stuff that I don't have knowledge on that he can assist with too. That's one of the beautiful things about having a family like this, is that we all have amazing and different experiences. And so although it's not fun to be like, hey, I've got an issue that I hate everyone, or hey, I have an issue with pornography, or hey, I have an issue with drugs, or I have an issue with drinking, or I have an issue with gambling. None of that is fun, but we've all dealt with temptation. We all know what that feels like. Drop the weight. Plan and prepare. You can have such a more fulfilling life. Don't let doing a little preparation stop you from that. Don't let the shame stop you from that. So as the band comes up, and I close with prayer, I just want you guys to be thinking about that, mulling that over. Pray with